The true turning point of life does not arrive as a sudden miracle, a perfect opportunity, or a dramatic event that reshapes everything overnight. Most people spend years waiting for something external to change. A better job, more money, the right relationship, recognition or approval. They believe that once these conditions are met, their life will finally begin to move in the right direction. This belief quietly keeps them powerless. The real turning point begins much deeper, in a place where no one else can reach, the moment you decide to take full responsibility for your mind, your actions, and the direction of your life. Taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything that has happened. Many circumstances are outside your control. You did not choose where you were born, what challenges you were given early in life, or what limitations were placed upon you by others. Responsibility begins when you stop using these facts as excuses for remaining the same. It is the realization that while you cannot change the past, you can change how you relate to it. The moment you accept that your future is shaped more by your responses than by your conditions, you step into real power. The mind is the first territory that must be taken back. Most people believe they are thinking, but in reality, they are being thought by habits, fears, and conditioning. Thoughts arise automatically, shaped by past experiences and repeated emotional patterns. If you do not observe them, they dictate your behavior without your awareness. Taking responsibility for the mind means learning to notice thoughts without immediately obeying them. It means recognizing that not every thought deserves your belief, and not every emotion requires action. This awareness creates a small but powerful gap between impulse and response. In that gap lies freedom. When responsibility for the mind is absent, life becomes reactive. You react to criticism with anger, to discomfort with avoidance, to uncertainty with fear. Over time, these reactions form predictable cycles. You repeat the same mistakes, enter the same unhealthy situations, and wonder why nothing changes. The turning point occurs when you see this pattern clearly and decide to interrupt it. You begin to ask not who caused this, but what within me keeps allowing this. This question shifts your attention from blame to growth. Responsibility for actions follows naturally once the mind is observed. Actions are the physical expression of inner states. If the mind is chaotic, actions become inconsistent. If the mind is disciplined, actions become precise. Many people desire change but are unwilling to adjust their daily behavior. They want different results while repeating the same routines. Taking responsibility means aligning actions with values, not moods. It means doing what is necessary even when it feels uncomfortable, boring, or difficult. This is where discipline replaces wishful thinking. Small actions carry immense weight. Waking up when you said you would, finishing what you start, caring for your body and keeping your word. These are not minor details. They are daily votes for the kind of person you are becoming. When actions are guided by responsibility, self-respect grows. And when self-respect grows, confidence follows naturally, without the need for external validation. Direction is the final and often most neglected aspect of responsibility. Many people are busy but not purposeful. They move constantly but have no clear sense of where they are going. Without direction, effort is wasted and life feels exhausting. Taking responsibility for direction means consciously choosing principles that guide your decisions. It means asking, what kind of life am I building through my habits? And if I continue this way for the next 5 years, where will I arrive? These questions demand honesty, not optimism. Direction does not require knowing every detail of the future. It requires clarity about what you will no longer tolerate, within yourself and in your environment. It requires the courage to say no to paths that contradict your growth, even when they are familiar or comfortable. Once direction is chosen, distractions lose their power, because you know what you are working toward. The internal decision to take responsibility is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. It leaves you face to face with yourself. But it is also deeply liberating. You no longer wait for permission to change. You no longer depend on perfect conditions. You understand that progress is built through consistent effort, guided by awareness and sustained by discipline. This decision does not make life easy, it makes life honest. And honesty is the foundation of real transformation. When you take responsibility for your mind, your actions, and your direction, life stops happening to you and starts unfolding through you. That is the true turning point, the moment you stop hoping for change and start embodying it. Suffering does not persist because life is unfair alone. It continues because most people live without awareness of the patterns that govern their thoughts, emotions, and actions. When habits operate unconsciously, they repeat themselves automatically, regardless of the pain they cause. A person may recognize that something is wrong in their life: constant stress, broken relationships, inner emptiness, or lack of progress, yet still continue behaving in the same way. This is not because they enjoy suffering, but because what is familiar feels safer than what is unknown. Until awareness enters this cycle, suffering remains uninterrupted. Unconscious habits are formed through repetition and emotional reinforcement. Each time a reaction is repeated, avoiding discomfort, seeking approval, responding with anger, numbing pain with distraction, the nervous system learns and strengthens that pattern. Over time, these responses no longer feel like choices, they feel like personality. A person says, "This is just how I am," without realizing that this identity is built on learned behavior, not truth. Suffering deepens when identity becomes tied to habits that limit growth. Awareness begins with observation. It is the ability to notice what you are doing while you are doing it, without immediately trying to change it or judge it. This alone creates a shift. When you observe a reaction, it loses some of its control over you. For example, when you notice impatience rising, instead of acting it out, you witness it. This witnessing weakens the habit's grip. The mind, when seen clearly, starts to slow down. This is the first sign that suffering is no longer fully in command. Clarity emerges from repeated observation. It is not a sudden realization, but a gradual sharpening of perception. You begin to see connections between your inner states and outer results. You recognize how certain thoughts drain energy, how specific behaviors lead to predictable outcomes, and how avoidance keeps problems alive. This clarity is uncomfortable at first because it removes confusion. And with confusion goes denial. You can no longer claim ignorance. But within this discomfort lies freedom, because what is clearly seen can be consciously changed. Suffering thrives in confusion. When the mind is scattered, life feels overwhelming. You react emotionally, make impulsive decisions, and then deal with the consequences without understanding their source. Clarity brings order. It simplifies life by revealing what truly matters and what does not. Many problems that once felt complex are revealed to be the result of one or two repeated behaviors. With this realization, effort becomes focused instead of scattered. The moment clarity appears, responsibility follows naturally. You realize that while you may not be responsible for the origin of your pain, you are responsible for its continuation. This realization is not meant to create guilt, but empowerment. It shifts you from victimhood to authorship. Instead of asking why suffering exists, you ask what you can do differently right now. This question transforms suffering from an enemy into a teacher. Habits do not dissolve through force alone. They dissolve through awareness combined with consistency. Each time you respond differently, more calmly, more consciously, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen a new one. Progress may feel slow, but something subtle is changing. The inner environment becomes more stable. Emotional reactions lose intensity. Choices become more deliberate. These small shifts accumulate, and over time, life begins to feel lighter, not because challenges disappear, but because you are no longer fighting yourself. Clarity also changes how you relate to pain. Instead of resisting discomfort, you begin to investigate it. You ask what it is trying to show you. Often, pain points directly to areas where growth is required. Boundaries not set, truths not spoken, discipline not practiced. When pain is approached with awareness, it loses its destructive quality and becomes informative. It still exists, but it no longer controls your behavior. The change that clarity brings is not dramatic on the surface. From the outside, life may look the same for a while, but internally a foundation is being rebuilt. You become less reactive, more grounded and more aligned with your values. Decisions are no longer driven by fear or impulse, but by understanding. This inner shift eventually expresses itself externally through healthier relationships, steadier progress, and a deeper sense of purpose. Suffering ends not because life becomes perfect, but because awareness breaks the cycle of unconscious repetition. Clarity marks the moment when you stop living on autopilot and start living intentionally. From that moment on, life may still challenge you, but it no longer traps you. You move forward with open eyes, steady effort, the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are no longer ruled by habits you do not understand. Most people believe that motivation is the key to change. They wait to feel inspired, energized, or emotionally ready before they take action. When motivation is present, they feel powerful and capable. When it disappears, progress stops. This cycle keeps people trapped in inconsistency. Motivation is dependent on mood, comfort, and circumstances, all of which are unstable. Discipline, on the other hand, does not rely on how you feel. It relies on what you have decided. This is why discipline, not motivation, becomes the true bridge between who you are and who you can become. Who you are today is the result of repeated behaviors practiced over time. Your current strengths, weaknesses, habits, and limitations are not accidents. They are outcomes. In the same way, who you can become is not a fantasy, but a direction shaped by consistent action. The distance between these two states is not crossed in moments of excitement, but through daily effort, often performed without enthusiasm. Discipline is the structure that carries you across this distance when emotions fluctuate and external support fades. Motivation is useful, but unreliable. It often comes from external stimulation, a speech, a video, praise, or success. While these sparks can initiate movement, they cannot sustain it. The human mind naturally seeks comfort and avoids effort. When motivation fades, the mind begins to negotiate. It finds reasons to delay, to rest longer, or to compromise standards. Without discipline, these negotiations win, and the old self remains unchanged. Discipline begins with clarity. You must know what is required of you, not just what you desire. Desire is emotional. Discipline is intentional. When you clearly define what actions must be taken regardless of mood, you remove decision fatigue. You no longer ask yourself each day whether you will act. You simply execute. This reduces inner conflict and preserves mental energy. Over time, disciplined action becomes routine, and routine becomes identity. True discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. When you do what you said you would do, even when it is difficult, you build trust with yourself. This trust becomes confidence. Confidence built this way is quiet and stable, unlike confidence built on external validation. You no longer need to convince yourself that you are capable. Your actions prove it daily. Discipline also teaches patience. Change rarely produces immediate results. The mind wants quick rewards, but meaningful transformation unfolds slowly. Discipline allows you to continue working even when results are invisible. It trains you to value process over outcome. This mindset prevents discouragement and reduces the temptation to quit prematurely. Those who succeed are often not more talented, but more consistent. There is also freedom within discipline, a concept many misunderstand. People often see discipline as restriction, believing it limits choice. In reality, lack of discipline limits far more. Without discipline, impulses control behavior. With discipline, you control impulses. This control expands your options. A disciplined body moves with strength. A disciplined mind thinks with clarity. A disciplined life creates opportunities that undisciplined effort never reaches. The bridge that discipline builds is crossed step by step. Each disciplined action reinforces the path. Skipping steps weakens the structure. This is why shortcuts often lead back to the same place. There is no replacement for consistent effort applied over time. Discipline makes progress inevitable, even if it is slow. As discipline strengthens, motivation begins to change its role. Instead of being the driver, it becomes a byproduct. You feel motivated because you see progress, because your standards are higher, and because your actions align with your values. Motivation becomes stable because it is rooted in evidence, not emotion. Becoming who you can become requires surrendering the need to feel ready. You act first, and feeling follows. Discipline carries you through resistance, doubt, and fatigue. It holds you steady when life becomes demanding. Over time, the gap between who you are and who you aim to be grows smaller, not through dramatic effort, but through quiet consistency. This is the power of discipline. It does not promise comfort, but it guarantees movement, and movement, sustained over time, transforms potential into reality. Most people believe their lives are shaped primarily by circumstances. They point to their environment, finances, relationships, past experiences, or lack of opportunity as the deciding factors of their destiny. While circumstances undeniably influence the conditions around you, they do not have the final authority over your life. The true determining force lies within. When the inner foundation is strong, circumstances may challenge you, slow you down, or test you, but they can no longer dictate who you become or where your life ultimately goes. An inner foundation is built from clarity, discipline, values, and emotional stability. Without this foundation, the mind becomes reactive. Every external event triggers an internal response that dictates behavior. Praise creates attachment, criticism creates insecurity, failure creates despair, and success creates arrogance. In such a state, a person is constantly pulled in different directions by the changing nature of the world. Life feels unstable because the inner structure is weak. A strong foundation changes this relationship. Instead of reacting automatically, you respond consciously. Emotional stability is one of the most important pillars of this foundation. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. It means understanding them without being controlled by them. When emotions rise, you are able to observe them rather than immediately act on them. This ability creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, choice becomes possible. Circumstances lose their grip because they can no longer force reactions. You remain steady even when conditions are unfavorable. Clarity strengthens the foundation further. When you know who you are, what you stand for, and where you are going, external noise becomes less influential. Opinions, trends, and temporary setbacks lose their power to distract you. Without clarity, every obstacle feels personal, and every delay feels like failure. With clarity, challenges are seen as part of the process rather than signs to stop. Direction provides stability in uncertainty. Discipline anchors the foundation in action. Inner strength without action remains theoretical. Discipline ensures that values are expressed through behavior, not just intentions. When discipline is present, you do not depend on perfect conditions to move forward. You act despite discomfort, fear, or inconvenience. This consistency builds momentum that external circumstances struggle to interrupt. Even when progress is slow, it continues. A strong inner foundation also reshapes how you interpret hardship. Instead of asking why difficulties exist, you ask how they can be used. Challenges become training rather than punishment. Each obstacle tests patience, focus, and resolve. Over time, this perspective transforms pressure into growth. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once felt unfair becomes instructive. Circumstances often reveal, rather than create, inner weakness. When pressure appears, it exposes what has not yet been strengthened. If stress leads to collapse, it is not the stress alone that caused it, but the absence of inner support. When the foundation is strong, pressure does not break you, it refines you. This is why two people can face the same situation and experience entirely different outcomes. Control over destiny does not mean controlling every event. It means maintaining alignment with your principles regardless of events. Life will always contain uncertainty. Plans will change. Loss and failure are unavoidable. A strong inner foundation does not eliminate these realities. It equips you to move through them without losing direction or dignity. You may be delayed, but not defeated. Over time, this inner strength compounds. Each challenge faced with steadiness increases confidence. Each decision made in alignment with values reinforces identity. Gradually, you become less dependent on external validation and more grounded in self-trust. This self-trust becomes the core of freedom. You no longer fear change as intensely because you know you can adapt without losing yourself. Destiny, in this sense, is not a fixed endpoint, but a direction shaped by repeated choices. When the inner foundation is weak, choices are reactive and inconsistent. When it is strong, choices are deliberate and aligned. Circumstances may influence the path, but they do not control the direction. You remain the author of your response, and therefore the architect of your future. When the inner foundation is strong, life no longer feels like something that happens to you. It becomes something you actively participate in. External conditions lose their power to define your worth, limit your potential, or dictate your decisions. You move forward with stability, clarity, and resilience. And in that stability, destiny shifts, not because the world has changed, but because you have.